outdoors.com. This week there's going to be a lot of things to talk about. So first things first, I'm going to recap everything that I'm going to be talking about. And this week is a mixture of things. So I'm going to try to get through most of them as much as possible. So first thing we're going to be talking about is the 2017 Video Game Awards. Secondly is talking about Steam taking away Bitcoin, removing Bitcoin. Third is some news about the Linux Journal shutting down. And then finally, we're going to be talking about Patreon and some of the changes that they just made recently. And so let me go ahead and set this up really quick and we will get started. And so as I'm setting this up, if you have not seen the trailer, if you're familiar with this anime, very, very famous anime, Battle Angel, or I don't remember the Japanese name, I think it's Gundam. And there is actually a live action trailer of this particular movie that just came out. And if you're not familiar with the whole story of Battle Angel, it's actually an post-apocalyptic anime with this really awesome story in just an hour. It has this character, I think the English name was Alita, and then the Japanese version, her name is Gali. And even though it's a story that has been done before, the way in which Battle Angel does it, and also at the same time, there is a lot of things that go on in the particular anime in just 1 hour. So it is an excellent anime. And one thing that I was not aware of, and James Cameron, if you know, Titanic, Terminator 2, and of course Avatar, he's been trying to make this project for like 10 years now. And so the director of this movie is going to be Robert Rodriguez. And if you haven't checked out the trailer, go check it out because it's much, much better than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be absolutely horrible. Okay, and so let's go ahead and get into the news. So go watch the trailer if you haven't seen it. So if you didn't know, just the other day in Los Angeles, there was the 2017 Video Game Awards. And this thing actually came out in 2013. And the Video Game Awards, it's had a lot of I would say mixed feelings because, you know, I'm not a huge fan of award shows. I mean, even especially stuff like the Oscars is kind of boring to me. And it's so funny because in the 2017 Video Game Awards, there was a really interesting announcement or interview with one of the developers. And I'm going to be talking about that. So let me go over some of the things that I particularly thought were interesting, and also some thoughts on actually the video game industry as a whole. Okay, so first and foremost, I definitely want to talk about this interview. And if you've seen the 2017 Video Game Awards, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And so there is this game. It's called A Way Out, and the lead director is Joseph Fares. And if I'm not mistaken, whenever he did this interview with on the show, I think he was actually drunk or he was on something. Hey, good morning, George. Thank you for joining. Yeah, and so it really looked like he was on something because number one, he was cursing like crazy. That was funny. And then secondly, he was just, I would say, just rambling, but in a way that was extremely funny, offensive, and memorable. And so he went on great length about how he hated the Oscars and how they were absolutely horrible. And that's a great comparison because I think people outside of the video game industry would look at the 2017 or just the Video Game Awards and think it's like a poor version of the Oscars, okay? But for people who are really into video games, and as anybody knows, the video game industry is absolutely huge, okay? And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Hey, good morning, Rose. Thanks for joining. Glad to see you back. And yeah, so that was the first thing. And he also talked really bad and good about EA because EA Highlights, I think, is the one that is actually funding the development of this game, A Way Out. And the great thing about the whole thing was that not only was it memorable, but at the same time, he got a lot of free marketing for his game. Okay, I'm not sure if he did it intentionally, but it kind of came out that way. And you know, the one thing that if you think about EA, I remember EA when Trip Hawkins founded it. You know, I remember EA back in the PC days, Epic's games, and I don't think EA was part of Epic's, but I remember EA since the beginning. And so to see them grow to this point, it's pretty amazing, okay? But that doesn't mean everything that they do is awesome. You know, right now they're the most hated game company in the world. But if you think about what just happened with Star Wars Battalion 2, with all the controversy around the microtransactions and stuff like that, loot boxes, if you think about it the other way, that is amazing marketing. You know, they got free marketing. And so in this case, the developer or the director of this game, A Way Out, he got some free marketing because a lot of people are talking about it, okay? But the game itself, it looks like a co-op buddy cop type game. I mean, it looks okay. I mean, I don't know much about it, but after this particular show, I know much more. Okay, so let me talk about the things that I found interesting. And the thing is, I think a lot of people would like find the same things interesting, in my opinion. The first few things that I was surprised about, and maybe not surprised, was the announcement of Soul Calibur 6 in 2018. Now, I know, like, for some people, Soul Calibur, it's one of those things where, you know, it's more of the same. For me, it's actually really, really memorable because I remember Soul Calibur, and you know, if you are a Namco fan, you know that they are the creators of Soul Calibur and Tekken. For me, my love with Soul Calibur started on the PlayStation when it came out initially as Soul Blade, I'm sorry, and then Soul Edge. But it really wasn't until the Sega Dreamcast, when I bought my Sega Dreamcast, I bought Soul Calibur. And Soul Calibur was, at the time, the most amazing arcade experience that I had at home. Because of the power of the Sega Dreamcast, and this was like relevant to pretty much all the games. That's why I love the Sega Dreamcast so much. One thing that as a gamer, and you see my videos, you know I absolutely love retro gaming, but for me it was games that I grew up with, okay? But it was very hard for home consoles to actually get the same arcade perfection. You know, I'm not sure why, because even as the hardware got more powerful, even with the PlayStation and the Xbox, for some reason it still couldn't get like, well, the Dreamcast came out, I think, yeah, the Dreamcast came out before the PlayStation. And so, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was something that Sega did with the developers. Because even though the hardware with the PlayStation, Xbox One, they did get better, for some reason, when I think about arcade perfection and better, I still think about the Sega Dreamcast. And that's what Soul Calibur was. I never played it in the arcades before this, but when I played it, I was like, man, I'm so glad I got the Dreamcast. And that's why Soul Calibur, ever since then, it's always been a series that I adore and I love. And so I can't wait till it comes out. And it will be out on PC. And Namco's done a great job of porting their really big titles, the biggest titles, over to the PC. You know, so Soul Calibur being one of them. And I'm pretty sure Tekken 6 was on the PC as well. And so another game that I found interesting was a game that already exists. Okay, and it's kind of like goes back to, you know, memorable things, and that's Bayonetta. And so Bayonetta 1 and 2, it will be released on the Nintendo Switch, and Bayonetta 3, they released a kind of like a preview trailer. And what I enjoyed about, you know, Bayonetta is, it's so funny, it goes back to Sega, and most importantly, the game studio. I think it's a Playmore that actually did it. They're an excellent studio. And the story of Bayonetta, after Bayonetta 1 had a lot of success when Sega brought that out, they were trying to bring out Bayonetta 2, but they were having some financial issues. And so it wasn't until Nintendo stepped in and made like a deal with the developers to actually have exclusivity of Bayonetta 2 on the Nintendo Wii, if I remember correctly. And so, in effect, Nintendo saved the game, and they also saved the development team. And now we're getting a third sequel. And so what I enjoyed about Bayonetta is that it's like super Japanesey, but it's super fun. Okay, and at the same time, I never would associate Nintendo with taking a property like that over to their system. And so that's another one that I'm looking forward to. And there's some other ones on here too that I'm not really familiar with, but there is a vacation simulator. in VR, it's the same studio that did Job Simulator. I mean, me personally, I don't know why you would want to play a VR job simulator. I mean, most people are like trying to get away from their jobs, but it was a very fun game, very humorous, and so I think that's a lot of reasons why people are going to enjoy this one if they enjoyed the first one. And if you are a Nintendo fan, if you watch the actual game, so Nintendo won Game of the Year with Breath of the Wild, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they're actually releasing an expansion that's going to be a Champion's Ballot. And the funny thing is, there's going to be a motorcycle in the game, so that's really unexpected. And Nintendo, me and my brother have talked about this in our last Geek Bros Talk episode. I'm really surprised that Nintendo is doing so well with the Switch. And, I didn't think it was going to be, like, as successful as it is. That's my honest feeling, is because, number one, the hardware is not there. And hardware isn't everything, okay? But if you have really powerful hardware, the creators are less limited by technology, okay? So that's my whole thought of it. About the only things that I see the Nintendo Switch before it was released was going to be successful with, in my opinion, was the whole portability factor. And so that point actually came true. The portability is something that a lot of people love about Nintendo Switch. And the portability is different from other mobile gaming devices or even your cell phone, because you really are carrying around an arcade machine that can be played just as well at home and portable, which is something that I don't think any other game manufacturer has done. Okay, but Nintendo successfully did this. But what I did not expect was how popular it's become and how many amazing games have come out in its early life. The Nintendo Switch has come out with some truly amazing games, and no surprise, pretty much all of them came out from Nintendo, but the quality is just so high, it's absolutely amazing. And so hats off to Nintendo for winning Game of the Year, and also for continually pushing the quality envelope. Okay, so good morning, Shatter. What's anime on the back, Shatter? Well, the anime is Battle Angel, Shatter. There is a brand new trailer for the live action Battle Angel, produced by James Cameron. It's going to be directed by Robert Rodriguez. It's way better than I thought, so go check that out. Battle Angel was one of my favorites. It came out in 1993. I absolutely love anime, and this is one that's extremely memorable. Great story, fun time. I think it's only about 55 minutes for the whole movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's excellent. Okay, and there were some other games. There was Witchfire. There was a PlayerUnknown's Battleground, showed off a new map. Okay, so there were other games there. Okay, but for me, the last game that, to nobody's surprise, left the biggest impression, and there was really no gameplay, is Death Stranding by Hideo Kojima. And Rose says, okay, hello Shatter George. Shatter says, good, thanks for the info. No problem, Shatter. Okay, so Death Stranding. And this leads me to my whole thoughts about the state of video games. Because Hideo Kojima, in my opinion, he is a genius, an absolute genius. I've loved his games ever since the early days. I don't think I played his earliest games. There was some type of like a side-scrolling game that he did. It was very familiar. It seemed like Mario Brothers at the time, but with different characters. But really, everybody remembers Hideo Kojima because of Metal Gear. Okay, I remember playing the very first Metal Gear on the Nintendo system. Okay, and ever since then, Hideo Kojima has always pushed the envelope. And Hideo Kojima was way ahead of his time, because Hideo Kojima saw video games as an art form. He saw it as a medium to tell a story, and he's never really strayed from that. But now, coming up to 2017, with Death Stranding and many other properties that he's done, it has never changed. He's always been a wonderful storyteller, and he uses technology to tell the story as best he can, to really take people into the characters, into the world. And one thing that he's always wanted to do with Metal Gear and everything that he's ever done with his team, with Kojima Productions, is to actually bring a movie experience, movie storytelling to video games. Okay? And my opinion on Hideo Kojima is that his video games, it's better, in my opinion, than most movies, period. It's just that good because you really don't see it as a video game. You know, you really see it as a form of entertainment and a wonderful story. And then, if you actually watch a trailer for Death Stranding, this latest one, this is an 8-minute trailer, and it has the main actor, a real-life actor, Norman Reedus in there, and Guillermo del Toro is in there as well. He's actually plays a character in the game. And if you haven't seen the trailer, go check it out. I really thought I was watching an awesome sci-fi movie. I mean, and you know Hideo Kojima, he loves having cutscenes, okay? He's done that ever since he could. But he does it in a way that tells a story, okay? Where it's not annoying, okay? It actually serves a story, and he has really long cutscenes. You could even go back to the original Metal Gear, and if you remember playing games like the original Ninja Gaiden, there was really story driven. It was like watching a movie as you're playing the game. But with this Death Stranding, I'm like, even with the initial teaser trailers, you know, you really didn't know what you were watching. But with this one, it gives you more. You know, you have Norman Reedus, you have these weird, invisible characters that are killing people, that are making them really old. And you know what I mean when you see the trailer. And then there's these handprints, okay? So if you watch the original teaser trailers of Death Stranding, that was a theme, and a baby, and like stuff doesn't make sense. I'm like, you don't know what's going on, you know? But that's what's awesome about this trailer, is that you don't know what's going on, but yet you want to keep watching it. You want to know what's going on. And then as the trailer goes on, you see weird creatures, and then Norman Reedus is underwater. Sorry about that. But you really don't know what's going on, but yet it's so, I don't know, it's like magical to me, okay? It's sci-fi, it's horror, it's grittiness. I mean, it's like a combination of aliens and, I don't know. Just watch the trailer. And so, what that really symbolized to me was that, even though I have mentioned this many times before, I'm not a really big fan of modern gaming, okay? Because to me, all the things that are outside of gaming, the microtransactions, the DLC, the loot boxes, all the other stuff, even the very large sizes of games now, I mean, most people download their games now, okay? Especially if you're on a PC. I really think that takes away from the actual game experience, you know? Like, that's why I love the games that I grew up with, because I could just play my game, okay? But then, with the 2017 Video Game Awards, you know, there were games out there that really showed that even though the game industry, it is a big business. I'm definitely cognizant of that. And as you watch my show, you know I'm a big proponent of entrepreneurship, okay? And so I take nothing away from the fact that these companies, and that's why I mentioned EA, because I remember EA when they were a small company, just barely making it, okay, with Trip Hawkins and his team. And now they've grown to this humongous level. But they were a small company, just like every other company. And back then, video game companies were struggling. They were just fighting to survive. But at least back then, things were so new, the industry was so small, that there was still room for a lot of innovation, you know? And not to say that there isn't innovation today, it's just that there's so many games today. There's so many businesses in games, and it's like, you know, it's harder to stand out, is what I'm saying. And so when I see stuff like the 2017 Video Game Awards, and I didn't like everything on there, but the ones that they did highlight, you know, there are definitely still a lot of people who want to create a great game. That's never going to go away, okay? It's just that in the modern age, it's really challenging, okay? Because there's not only more competition, costs have grown up, has gone up. And so as a business, it's way more difficult for you to make money. That's just realistic. And so if you think about what EA has done, you don't have to agree with what they've done. But if you think about them as a business, people still buy their stuff. People still spend money. And that's hard to do. And so being a content creator, I could relate a lot to, not everything, but I could agree, I could like kind of see where these content creators, which is what video game makers really are. They create content. They're creative, okay? So as you are a content creator, you're constantly trying to create new things, okay? But one thing that you'll learn really quick is that just because you love something, that doesn't mean the market, i.e. business, people actually buying your stuff, will like what you do, okay? And so even though we as gamers, we are passionate about the types of games that we want it to be really gamer focused, the reality is those people do not make up the majority of gamers, okay? And if you don't think that's true, just look at how much EA has made as a business, okay? You don't have to agree with them, but look how much money they've made, how successful their business is, bringing out the same stuff over and over, and how many people complain about it, but yet those same people are going to go out and buy their games, okay? And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here, because there's two different things, okay? There's the business end, which you have to have, otherwise you would not be in business. But then there's also the creative end, you know, the creators, the gamers, and it's really hard to find the combination of two. And so when I see something like Death Stranding, where the creator, Hideo Kojima, and his team, they not only have the creative freedom, right? But they have the financial backing of much bigger companies who are willing to invest in it. And obviously, him being Hideo Kojima, he has a lot more flexibility, a lot more freedom than most indie developers, okay? But then as you're watching some other games during the game show, you know, there's definitely still innovation there, and there's hope. And so that's my whole point of it. You know, I'm always gonna be thinking about like games that I've enjoyed, you know, and just playing the video game. That's me, you know. But at the same time, I'm not a modern gamer, and so I don't really understand a lot of what's going on in the modern gaming scene. But I will say, after watching this particular game show and then seeing the passion and the creativity that's coming out, they're trying, they're fighting really hard. And so hopefully we're going to get more stuff like this, okay? Because I do want these to succeed so that we can get more stuff like this, okay? And obviously, you know, I want the gamers to, you know, have great games, of course. But at the same time, I definitely want the businesses to survive and thrive as well, so that they can continue paying their developers, and so the developers can continue creating. And so, yeah, it's going to be a great time for gaming next year. And so, Shatter saying modern gaming, especially, I don't like the DLC. Yeah, Shatter, yeah, that's exactly what I said. I don't like the whole experience around gaming, okay, modern age. You know, I just want to play the game. And Shatter saying job and money are the main crisis for now these days. Yeah, and you know, that's always going to be the case, Shatter. If you look at like history, you know, it's always going to be a challenge, because people want to do what they want to do, right? But you still need to, you know, have a way to make a living, okay? And so that's the reality of it all, okay? And that's why whenever gamers see these things come out, their first thought of is, why are they doing this to us? Well, they're doing it because so that they could stay in business, so that they could pay the people who work for them, you know? And I've said this so many times, but it's like, it's hard to, you know, combine those two. And so that's why this 2017 Video Game Award show, I was really, really happy that it was really creative focused, but at the same time, it was still backed with a solid business underneath. And so that gives me a lot of hope. And one thing I also see, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong if you're a gamer, I see some trends coming back. Hopefully they'll stay. And one trend is the single player game focus. Okay, I really think id with Doom 2017, they really started that in motion. And then with Wolfenstein 2, and there was even a promo that talked about single player games, and it was narrated by Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman. And so I hope some of those things comes back, because I understand why multiplayer is so important. Not only from the fact that gaming is pretty much everything's heading online, whether we want to or not. It's actually where the whole industry is heading, and it's already in. Especially in countries like China, where the online gaming community absolutely dwarfs any other country in the world. You just go look at the numbers. Their number of people play online games in China is larger than the population of the whole United States. That's absolutely staggering. But at the same time, if everybody is online gaming, right, the companies have more control and they can monetize it more, okay? That's the main reason why, if you remember when the Xbox One came out, they force people to be online all the time because Microsoft and many other game companies, they know that's where the industry is heading. So in the future, everybody will have to be online, period. You're not going to have a choice. It's just that Microsoft was the first big company to test it out. Because I guarantee you, if it worked back then, every single company would do it. But every company is going to do it in the future. So that's where things are heading. And so I miss just playing a game and then having the option of being online, you know. And I don't like it the other way where I have to be online just to play the game, okay? So, Shazza say small business not stay tuned or survive because of corporatocracy, the very reality. I disagree with that, Shatter, for the simple fact that businesses, just like I mentioned with EA, they were small businesses, okay? So, all businesses start small. I can't think of a single business that started off as a billion-dollar company by right away. And so the little guys eventually become the big guys if they're able to compete and if they're able to provide an experience or value that a person will pay for. That's just, to me, that's just simple business. So just think about any single business that you've ever seen that is this big company. Every single one of them started small. Okay, it's just now that since there are so many more people around the world, it's just more challenging, you know. But that's never been different. I mean, it's always been challenging to be in the business world, okay? And so, Rose is saying online game basically means no ownership of the games. Yeah, I would say yes, definitely, for sure, Rose. No ownership of what you bought. You know, like if you think about the games back in the day, you buy the game, you just plug it in and play it. It's not like that anymore. I absolutely hate that. That, you know, if a service like Steam were to go out of business, and that's why I keep repeating the whole business thing. If Steam were to go out of business, you cannot play your games. So, you know, Shata say yes, you're right indeed. Rose, in the future, you'll not own anything. Yeah, and Shata, I did do an episode on that where I talked about you don't own anything. And it's not just games, and I use this example all the time. It's just that a lot of people can relate with, okay? Think about your Kindle books. You don't own any of those Kindle books. Think about iTunes, right? Or even if like you download stuff from the App Store, the actual people who control it behind the scenes, they could cut off your access to an app, even though it's on your device. Okay, so exactly, you don't own anything. In the future, you would definitely not own anything. So that's why I said if you have something physical, a game, a CD, a record, an LP record, and my most favorite medium, books, keep them. Because in the future, you might not have them anymore. You know, everything's going to be digital. And I mean, although it's convenient, it'll be very, very controlled. Okay. Okay, so, hey Lance, good morning. Thanks for joining. Shatter say, yes, business is always challenging. Yeah. Shatter say, you will not own your stuff too. That's right, Shatter. We'll be in one of these androids. You know, we'll be controlled by some company. Rose, I'm old-fashioned. I buy games for my ownership. I look at old games, CDs, DVDs. Yeah, Rose, and I'm there right with you. You know, if you're not, I would say this is also a age thing as well. If you were born in an age where you had mobile devices, you had your touch screens, everything was digital, then maybe this won't matter to you, okay? But if you were in an age where you remember having your physical Sega Genesis, your physical Nintendo system, your physical Apple computer, IBM PC, for myself it's my Commodore, or your Amiga, or your Tandy device, or your Technics turntable player, or your Sony Walkman, or your cassette player, or your VHS. I could go on and on and on. You could play them. You could enjoy those things anytime you want, as long as the device and the medium were still playable, you know? That was so awesome. I didn't need to, let's just be real. If you're in a digital age, everything's digital, you effectively have to ask for permission to enjoy the things that you purchased, that you paid money for. That's the reality, because if Amazon wanted to, okay, they could, and they've done this before, and any of these businesses could do it. That's the power of it being online, okay, is that they revoke people's access to their Kindle books because they have your Amazon account, right? They could block you from any of your products anytime they want. period. And the same thing can happen on Steam. The same thing can happen to the Microsoft games, any of them. So that's kind of sad. I miss those days myself. Okay, Lance, I don't recognize this anime. It looked like the 90s style though. Yeah, Lance, as I was saying earlier, it's Battle Angel from 1993. The reason I talked about this earlier because the first trailer for Battle Angel live action produced by James Cameron and directed by Robert Rodriguez is coming out in July 2018. So go check out the trailer if you get a chance. Okay, so that's the 2017 Video Game Awards. I think it was a great show this year. A lot of interesting stuff, a lot of interesting characters, and most importantly, some really cool games that are going to be coming out in 2018 and beyond. So, speaking of games, we're going to continue that trend. Let's talk about Steam and Bitcoin. Okay? And so, Bitcoin, or the whole idea of cryptocurrency, has been really hot. Okay? It's been a hot topic. Everybody wants to get into it, but not everybody understands it. I don't understand it myself. And my brother, he actually was mining Bitcoins or just cryptocurrency on one of his computers. That's what my brother was doing. And my brother had he built a separate machine for his development machine. And I think that one he was actually running, what was it? He was running Arch Linux on it, okay, for his development. But he was also running cryptocurrency as well. And so cryptocurrency is a really, really big thing right now. It's just popular, I'm not going to lie. And people could potentially make a ton of money on it, but it's very speculative, okay? It's not a stable form of currency, at least right now. And I don't know if it will ever be, because, in order for it to gain mass adoption, the big companies, i.e. the banks and governments, have to adopt this as a form of currency, which means they have to have more control over it, okay? And so if you stay, if you stay up to date with cryptocurrency, because it's a really volatile form of currency, it could go up and down like this. So one day your Bitcoin can be worth, let's just give an example, $50, right? Which is not, it's worth a lot more. And then the next day shoots up to like $3,000, okay? And so there's no stability there. And so Steam, because of that, they decided to take Bitcoin away as their method of payment, okay? And this makes sense because since it's not a stable currency, it's constantly fluctuating, going up and down. Not only is it harder for Steam as a company to actually figure out fees, okay, because there's definitely going to be processing fees, but also, say for example, you bought something with Bitcoin, right? I'm just giving a simple example, and this might not be exactly why Steam did it, but say you bought a game for 1 Bitcoin, okay, whatever it's worth at that time, and then you want to return that game, because there is a period where you could return the game for Steam, right? And so now the next day the whole value of Bitcoin is 1,000 times or 100 times higher. Well, guess what? I mean, Steam still has to, even if they paid you back the exact value you paid for, they still have to incur the reprocessing fee to go back. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And so for a big company, even smaller companies, that just adds a lot of uncertainty and additional costs, and also additional, like I would say, legal problems as well. You could easily see where if people feel like they're not getting their full money back, or like just a few hours ago or a day ago it cost this much, and then next day it costs 1,000 times more. Okay, and so that's why they're getting out of that, and it leads to the whole thing of like cryptocurrency. Just as I said earlier, if my opinion is, as with anything, if you don't understand it, it's really, I would say, risky to get into it, okay? And this is the same thing with stock investing, real estate investing, anything like that you are new to and you're not familiar with. If you're going to be investing a lot of money, then just realize that there's going to be a potential for you to lose all of it, okay? And so for Bitcoin, my opinion is, if you have the money to try it out and to test and invest, go for it, but if you're like thinking this is going to be an investment, my opinion is I would not look at it that way, okay? Because an investment is something that you can actually predict, to a certain extent, and that it's not a bubble. Okay, this is a bubble. Okay, because no type of currency or investment or whatever new assets will actually go up and down like that for the long term. Okay, and so yeah, so let me see. So Rose says I prefer gold and silver coins. Yeah, Rose. I mean, because of the fact, and you know, you've probably seen these ads for years. Buy gold and silver. I've bought silver and gold myself, but the reason why it retains its value is because it's valuable. You know, if you actually look at the properties of silver and gold, they could actually be used for many different things. Okay, like if you think about medical equipment, silver can actually be used obviously to create these things. So it actually has intrinsic value, and at the same time it's rare. You know, there's more silver than gold, but you see what I'm saying. So that's why gold and silver for the longest time has always had value, and it's held its value. And so that is something, in my opinion, Rose, that those are the type of things that I'm talking about. Those are things that are more stable and consistent. Of course, they fluctuate as well, but not like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Okay, and so Lance saying I ran a Bitcoin full node for a while with the Raspberry Pi 3. It was fun. Oh yeah, Lance, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's very similar to what my brother did. Even if you don't invest money into it, I think the whole area of cryptocurrency, if you're able to run these machines, you could learn a lot from it. It's really cool. I mean, in my opinion, from like a technology point of view. I mean, it's amazing how this stuff works. The encryption, the valuation, and then even the community that surrounds cryptocurrency. It's a really vibrant community. Okay, so Rose say blockchain technology is useful, especially for counting transactions. Shots are saying how legal is that? Rose is saying blockchain technology can prevent fraud. Yeah, and it can, Rose. I mean, that's why they go with the whole how the security works. You know, how they're able to determine value. To me it's very complex. Okay, and that's what's really interesting to me. If you think about the technologies that are underneath cryptocurrency, it's pretty cool. I mean, if you think about it. Okay, and shots are saying I meant the bubble coin technology. How legal is that? Yeah, right. So those are my thoughts, just briefly, about Steam taking Bitcoin out, and until it gets to the point till, like I said, bigger institutions like banks and governments really adopt it. And what I mean by adopt is control it. Okay, until they can control it and place a consistent value on it, so then you as a consumer, as a citizen, can actually reliably, you know, say that, okay, with this Bitcoin, this currency, or Ethereum, or whatever it is, I could go somewhere and actually retain its value. Okay, because money, okay, is fiat currency. It really has no value. I mean, it might have, like, if you think about the materials of the dollar or whatever dollar bill, it does cost something, right? But really, the value of a currency, it's only measured by the value of the government behind it, or the economies behind it, right? Because if you go to countries that are going through a lot of political and economic turmoil, you could print all the money you want, and that's why they call it fiat currency, because it's really not worth anything unless there is something behind it that can, like, stabilize it, okay, that can retain its value. And that's why the United States currency has been consistently for decades, for a long time. It's basically the standard for currency, because we have the political systems, the stability to actually back it up. Okay, so so I think of Bitcurrency as the same way. You can have a bazillion different Bitcoins or different cryptocurrency, but if there's no value underneath it, there's no stability underneath, then it's absolutely worthless. Okay, so that's my feeling on that. So Rose saying Bitcoin value is just based on the individual's worth. It has no value in general sense. Not many people recognize the value, unlike gold and silver. Absolutely right, Rose. That's exactly to my point earlier. My opinion is this: in the future, and you know, other movies like these post-apocalyptic movies have done this before. In the future, the most valuable natural resource that we'll have, to me, is definitely not going to be gold and silver. It's going to be water. Water will be the most valuable resource in the future, for the simple fact that we as humans cannot survive without water. So I think water, and second, wow, maybe even bigger than water, but they're related because they're liquid in a different form, right? It's oxygen. Okay, as our, and they've done movies on this before. As there's more people on the world, as there's less resources, as there's more population, just look at like countries like China and India. When there's densely populated, there's no way that you cannot avoid pollution, right? Or even go look at cities like Mexico City, where there's over 30 million people, right? So think of the whole world being like that in the future. And so with that, your quality of air and water is going to be worse. That's just a natural, the natural result of you having so many people. And also people, we have waste, right? And so, so in my opinion, in the future, the most valuable assets, in my opinion, would definitely be water and air, clean air. Okay, clean air, of course, because if we didn't have air, we'd all die anyway. So clean air is what I'm saying. And so whenever that comes out, maybe I'll look to see if there's any places I can invest in water and air for the future, okay? Because gold and silver is not going to matter if you can't survive, okay? Okay, so shots say every major mining company now mining cryptocurrency. Yeah, there's huge cryptocurrency servers and stuff, farms out there. Lance say cryptocurrency cannot be controlled by a bank government. The whole is to have a decentralized system. Yeah, Lance, and that's why I mentioned that, Lance, is because if the banks and governments, right now, there is no control, right? But if there is a way for them to gain control of this new currency, mostly it's going to be through political means, right? Across the board in every single country. That's what they need, okay? And so, trust me, I'm positive the banks and governments, they're thinking of ways to make it to where they have the authority and the control over this new form of currency. Okay, because in the future, we'll all have digital currency. I mean, we're already doing it right now, especially here in more developed countries, right? A lot of us don't carry cash around anymore. Most of us carry around a credit card or a debit card. If you think about 20 years ago, that just sounds weird. But now we're already in an age where we don't carry cash. And so effectively, we're already in a digital currency age because you don't have any cash, right? You're carrying around a card, which is linked to something digital. Okay, so imagine if the numbers change, like for example, if they had an accounting error and or the bank account gets hacked, whatever value that digital currency is that you have, that's what you have, okay? And so I think we're already there anyway, okay? It's just a different form of digital currency, okay? We should always say, perhaps Shatter, you can look at a job in data mining cryptocurrency. Yeah, Shatter says not interested. Rose, how about food? Yeah, of course, Rose. Food, you're right. The necessities, I'm sorry. Water, air, food, that would be the most valuable resource. And that's why if you look at all these post-apocalyptic movies or anime, they all talk about the same thing because that's the reality. That's what would happen. The most valuable things are things that are our base level that we need. Food, water, air, things like that. That's going to be more valuable than any piece of material that we can think about, okay? Shot say that's why it's not legal in many countries or most countries, yeah? Rose says Soylent Green, perhaps. Oh, you mean Soylent Green? Yeah, if you remember that movie Soylent Green, they were eating people. Okay, Shot say that's good. Hey, Vasil, good morning. Thanks for joining. Rose, you can buy water off Geek. Hello, Vasil. Yes, water ETF. Oh, yeah, thanks, Rose. That's awesome. Yes, water ETFs, I'm there. PowerShares Global ETF, PIO, and First Trust ISE Water ETF, FIW. Awesome. I'm going to go look at that. That's going to be awesome. Shacha said Nestle already has done that. Nestle is draining water aquifer. Okay. Great. So obviously all these people saw this way ahead of time. But yeah, so good. So it's already there. Like I said, I really haven't done any research on this as well, but just thinking common sense, that's where the most value is going to be in the future because we're going to have less of it, okay? So let's move on to the whole Linux news, okay? And the Linux news is kind of sad, actually, because the Linux Journal is ceasing publication. Okay, if you're not familiar with the Linux Journal is actually a magazine that actually started in 1994. They've been around for 23 years. And then obviously they also have a website. They transitioned to the digital age. But here's the reality, and I've talked about this many, many times before, especially with open source, quote unquote, free projects, okay? At the end of the day, you need to make money. You know, it needs to have some type of business underneath. Because even though we love open source, we love the fact that it's free, and I have mentioned this before, there are people behind it, and the people, they need a way to gather some type of income, okay? And so a lot of these open source projects, especially Linux, they're probably, most of the times, they're worse off financially, period. I mean, it's hard for them to stay in business or stay in service to provide the things that people love, okay? Because at the end of the day, they need to pay for the people that they employ. They need to pay for the servers that all their stuff is on. There's so many expenses that are involved with that I don't think most people who are just getting it for free, they don't think about. That's my personal opinion, okay? And so with the Linux Journal, the reason why they're ending their publication after 23 years, and you could go to their website and look at the actual post by, I guess, the CEO, Carly Fairchild. It starts off with EOF, which is end of file. They ran out of money. That's what happened. They couldn't pay a lot of their employees. They haven't been paid for months. They're in a lot of debt. They can't even keep their website up. So they're actually looking for somebody to actually take care of their debts, pay their employees, and continue running this brand, the Linux Journal. You know, I hope I'm not reading that wrong, that the website's not going to be around as well. That would suck, but it looks like they're not going to be able to even keep their digital asset going. Okay, the last Linux Journal magazine actually ended in November, and now the digital one is going to go away at all. And so this actually leads to the last part of what I'm going to be talking about, which is Patreon. Okay, and everything else that surrounds content creators. And you know, the Linux Journal, for everybody who was there, I just want to say this right before I forget. I just want to say thank you. Okay, because I remember the Linux Journal magazine. I remember it on being the shelf. It was one of the few Linux magazines anywhere. Okay, like if you go to Barnes and Nobles, I saw Linux Journal. I remember the Walden Books, the Linux Journal. And so I really want to thank everybody at the Linux Journal for doing that, for being there pretty much since the beginning. I think their first interview on the Linux Journal in 1994 was with the kernel creator, Linus Torvalds. That was one of their first interviews. So they've been there since the beginning to support the Linux community in really challenging times, because as you know, even big publishers, they've gone out of business because it's really difficult to make money in the whole publishing arena, especially on the internet where a lot of things are quote unquote free, okay? And so it's really difficult. And so I just want to give my hats off to everybody who has created Linux Journal, who's everybody who's worked there, and I hope that they are able to find a way to keep this going, and also to really help those people, you know, pay them, you know, so that they continue doing what they're doing, okay? And so Shasta said the new motto, no tucks, no bucks. Yeah, might be. Rose said, I think Geek should buy the Linux Journal with his investments. Yeah, Rose, you know what? If I could, I would. I would, you know, but then again, knowing myself, I'll probably not do a great job because I'll be too busy reading everything on there and not paying attention to the business part of it. But yeah, yeah, so I wish there was also a way that we can support Linux Journal. I don't think there is. Because they're probably going to need a lot of money to stay afloat. And so, yeah, I mean, there's even some people on the post that says, I would contribute to Kickstarter that will put on the whole LJ back catalog. Yeah, yeah, a lot of people are saying the same things. I would pay $20, $40 for access. Okay, so a lot of people are saying that they would help support the Linux Journal through donations. And Rose is saying perhaps Linux Journal should have a donation like Linux distros. Yeah, so that leads me into the whole Patreon thing, okay? And also the whole content creator or just creators in general, because all of these people are creators. Okay, so along with that news, Patreon just made a recent change to their payment and also transaction fee policy. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to thank Carl for mentioning this to me. He is the first Patreon that I had, and I have a few Patreons. Thank you, Vasil. Thank you, Rose. I want to thank y'all so much, first and foremost. Okay, and so they are increasing their fees, and the fees primarily affect the people who are donating. Okay, just to be real general, you could go to the Patreon page to see the actual details on it. Okay, but it's basically increasing the fees for people who are contributing to creators. And so in one effect, the creators actually get a little bit more money, but in another effect, it's going to cost more for the Patreon supporters. Okay, and it's really, in general, it'll cost more for people who are donating less. Okay, that's really what the whole gist of it is. Okay, so here are my feelings on that. And this is really a repeat of a lot of what I say about the whole content creation and also monetization, okay, and also business, okay. And so my opinion is, if you are a supporter, first and foremost, thank you, okay. And this is from me to anybody who decides to support my channel, and most importantly, the people who support my channel financially. I just want to say that don't ever feel that you have to give me money. Don't ever feel that you're obligated, okay. So whenever I do things where I'm talking about something that I love, where I'm basically advertising to you, I do that because it's a business for me, okay? And I love doing this. I want to continue doing this. So I'm never going to forget that in order for me to do this for the long term, it has to be done in a very business way, okay? And so I always feel like if you are going to be doing this, okay, that first and foremost, you have to look at it from a business entrepreneurship point of view. And then secondly, for all the people that support you, just remember that they're people, okay? Whenever I see people on here or people posting or watching my videos, I never feel like it's something that's artificial, okay? There's always somebody on the other side. And so I'm very grateful to anybody who supports my channel, and especially the people who actually take their hard-earned money to support this channel. Because everybody understands the value of money when they actually have to work for it, okay? And so it's something that I don't take lightly. And so I always want to say that if you can support, I appreciate it, okay? But I don't want you to feel obligated to do it, okay? That's first and foremost. And secondly, my thoughts on Patreon doing this, I don't have any problem with them doing this, okay? Because once again, they have business expenses. They have to pay people. They have to pay for the server space. Just exactly what I say every single time with any of these projects, whether it's open source or not, there's costs that are involved. People have to get paid to work for these places. Otherwise they can't stay in business. They can't stay to do what their mission was, okay? All of these started as an idea, and now look what they're doing. They're helping a lot of people. And so Patreon is one of those things. And so, and obviously, as a business, they got to try out a lot of different things. And so this way might not work. Maybe they'll try a different way. But if these changes are actually affecting you financially as a supporter, then just stop supporting. That's the reality. If it's going to cause you issues to take care of your family, take care of yourself by supporting a content creator, then just stop supporting him for now until it's right for you to support again. And so I think Patreon, they will figure out a better solution, because I think a lot of content creators, they rely on Patreon as a different way, as a very, well-supported way, and a way that you can actually trust to actually, have some type of relationship with your people who are actually supporting you, okay, which is great. So this way they can help you directly, and then in turn you're also helping them by creating more content, and also you're helping Patreon by keeping their business going and paying the people that work for them, okay? So let me see, that leads me to the whole area of content creation and monetization. But let me read some of these off, And so Rose says increase fees. Yes. Chacha say they hate you on born. Yes. Jared Chopper says artificial. We are real geeks. Absolutely. Y'all definitely real geeks. And Rose says it's not very much. It's like coffee. Yeah, Rose. I mean, yeah. If you think about the numerical amount, it's not as much because most people spend more on Starbucks coffee than they do, when they donate to a lot of their content creators. But then again, it really depends on your situation. Okay, so that's why I think every penny that you as a supporter provide, it's important to me. Okay, and so I don't want to take that away from you if it's going to affect you living, you living your life. And so, Shatra says human AI here. Yeah, Shatra, yeah, I know there's bots here, but I don't think the AI is that good yet where it could respond with really funny, smart things like that. So, Rose, I thought it was alien AI for Shatra. Shatra giggle hard. Okay, so let me get into the whole thing that I have talked about in multiple other videos in terms of monetizing. Okay, I know it's repeating a lot of things, but this is relevant to it. Okay, so if you're doing anything, you're a content creator. Okay, whether it's YouTube, a blog, a podcast, it doesn't matter. You have to take a more entrepreneurship point of view because you have to. Okay, like for example, if you look at my channel, I have Patreon, right? But then, you also get money from the ads from YouTube. And then also, if you actually look at my description or even my main page, I actually have a PayPal link as well. It's a PayPal me, so you could donate that way as well if you want to. Okay? So my whole point of it is, if you actually look at what I do on my channel, I don't have one way that you can support the channel. And you could do it actively or not actively. Okay? The not active part is ads running on YouTube. Okay, because after a certain time, it will count that. Okay, it'll charge the people who are buying the ads. I buy ads, and so that's one way. But then the active stuff is the Patreon support, the PayPal, and then if you notice in a lot of my videos, even in the description, I have affiliate links as well. Okay, and that's not by accident. I set up everything that I do with a business intent. Okay, and so I think that whenever you are watching content creators and you see more and more content creators doing this in the future because they have to. Because I think a lot of people, and if you are in this situation, I'm not saying this in disrespect, but a lot of people who got started in YouTube and who are now successful, they never thought of it as more of an entrepreneurial venture. Later on, they did. Okay, and so a lot of them, just like myself, but I really kind of knew that I had to do something different as well, is that when they create content, they get paid from YouTube, right? And then it feels like a job. Hey, I do work, I get something. Okay, but that's not the reality. And then by the time they figure out that, oh man, like for example, AdSense, I've said it in the last episode, Google's probably going to stop paying people out because it costs them a lot of money. And at the same time, they have a ton of people now. They don't need as many people, right? But you saw this happen, and you're seeing this happen right now. People's stuff is getting demonetized, and then it's not like a job. It's like a business, because in a business, one day you could be up, one day you could be down. A job, at least in a job, it doesn't go up and down like that unless you're in a startup, But even in a startup, you have a little more time to plan, I would say. Okay, at least if the owners really care about the people that work for them. Okay, but in this case with YouTube or anything on the internet, it is truly 100% a business because things could change at any time. Updates could be made. The whole worldwide economy could affect things. Also, trends could change. Like for example, if you love, like writing about the latest CDs and doing CD reviews, right? Audio CDs. That would not work today because things change, right? And on the internet, things change fast, extremely fast. And so with all of that being said, if you are going to become a content creator, then you have to think about the business aspects of it. How can you monetize it in a way that will allow you to continue doing this? And all of these companies like Patreon, all of them, they all have to think about that, because if they don't, they'll end up like VidMe, which just shut down last week, right? Or in this case, they'll end up like Linux Journal, which had to close their doors. Okay, and that's the reality of it. I mean, I don't think that any of these creators, you know, whether it's Linux Journal or any of the Linux websites that we go to, or let's open Office, Firefox, and even definitely the ones that are not open source, they all face the same challenges. Whether you do open source or not, it doesn't matter, in the sense that you still have costs underneath. It's exactly the same. You still have people that you have to pay. And so you, as being a content creator, whenever you're starting out, you're going to have to face these same challenges. And so if you are going to be doing this, I just recommend that you think about like the business parts of it, you know, how to monetize it. That doesn't mean like you're a super business person, but it's just kind of like, to me, it's just like stuff you have to think about. Because even though I love doing this, of course, I can't do this for free for the long term. And if you look at anything here, they can't either. Okay, and so there has to be some type of financial, you know, portion of it as well. Okay, I mean, just think about yourself. You work a job, right? If you went to your job and they stopped paying you, how long can you do your job? Probably not very long. So the same case here. You know, in a business, it's even worse because there's more things coming at you. And, you know, if you think about your job, the people who own the business, they have to think about that every single day. You know, so that's my feelings on this. So whatever Patreon is doing, I understand why they're doing it. And I mostly want to say, if you are a supporter, if it's going to affect you financially, just stop supporting until you get to a point where it's good for you, okay, that you can support, okay? And so, Shatter, it's all about TOS and TOC in the end. Yeah, Shatter, I think it's like further than that. You know, it's all about how do you keep the business running so that you can continue doing, you know, the things that you set out to do when you created the business in the first place. Okay, so yeah, so there are many ways that if you did want to support my channel financially, that you can, you know, whether it's active or non-active. But also, obviously, just by you being here, just by you watching, just by you leaving all these awesome ideas and stuff, that is a lot of support for me as well. Okay, but I really want to specifically point out the fact that whenever you do support financially, it's huge. Okay, it's huge because it's very difficult to make that type of investment for people that you don't even know. Okay, and so, but anyways, that's why I think the geek community is awesome. They support when they can, and they support things that they're passionate about. Okay, so that's awesome. But like I said, it's never an obligation for you to support me financially. But if you do, I want to give you a big thank you. Okay, and so Rose said, Eli and Peter got an introspective of Vidme and why they failed, and what would be a better alternative version of YouTube. Yeah, that's so funny, Rose. Like a few months ago, I think Eli, he really hated Vidme, you know, because he didn't have a great experience. But Shatter says, Shatter says, sorry, Rose, I don't follow him anymore. Okay, Shatter says Daily Motion was there, but ate up by YouTube. Yeah, you remember my last episode, I talked about that. But overall, you know, in general, I think it is an exciting time to be a content creator. And as a matter of fact, where everything's going, everybody's going to be a content creator. Okay, so even right now, you might not think that you're a content creator, but you are a content creator. Just by leaving your comments here on YouTube, or maybe you're on Reddit, maybe you're on Twitter, maybe you are on Facebook, you're creating content. So you are already a content creator. And more people are going to be content creators in the future. And my feeling is, in the future, even right now, more and more people will have to, or they're already doing it, they have multiple sources of income now. Okay, and so this isn't anything new, because back in the day, before there was the internet, right, you would have like multiple jobs. You know, you would have a full-time job, you have a part-time job, maybe you have 3 or 4 part-time jobs. Okay, for me, when I was in college, at one point I worked 3 jobs at the same time. So I worked at school in a computer lab, I worked in some video store, you know, like Blockbuster, if anybody remembers that. And then I also worked in another computer lab. Okay, yeah. So I did work 3 jobs at one point. And I even worked in a radio station as a DJ, just part-time at night. You know, I didn't get paid for that, but now with the internet, we actually, in my opinion, it's a lot easier for you to make money multiple ways versus before. Because before, the only way I can make more money is I'd physically have to be there. You know, I'd physically have to be at this job. I'd physically have to be at that job. I mean, if I wasn't there, I'm not making money. Whereas now, with the internet and everything that's available, you could make money while you sleep. You know, I know that sounds like some get-rich-quick stuff because you've probably seen it all over the place, but it's true. It's true. Just think about YouTube. You're making money while you sleep. So when the ads are running, it makes you money. Or maybe if somebody clicks on an affiliate link, you make money. Or somebody donates to you. So you can effectively make money 24 hours a day, okay, from multiple places, okay? And if you think of a long-term approach as a business, this could actually grow to something that will really give you the type of quote-unquote freedom, which is what I value a lot, the type of freedom that you want. Because whenever I do these YouTube videos or any of these other things, and I've said this in another video, these are assets. These are assets. Not only are they creative assets, meaning I could look back from this 10 years from now and like, wow, to me, like, that's awesome. You know, you grow as a person, as an individual. You're able to communicate with people all around the world that you never met. But imagine 10 years from now, how much bigger this will be. Something that I created, but then all these other people like yourselves who are coming in, it's crazy. You know, I mean, imagine how much bigger that will be. And so let me shut that off because, so that's my feeling on that, because I think everybody has an opportunity, especially now with the internet age, to create assets, to have multiple streams of income, which you need to have, and some things that could run on their own 24 hours a day. And at the same time, you'll be able to connect with people all around the world and also help people as well. Because for me, when I saw YouTube and then I saw a video and I learned something from it, and then I was able to apply that in my life, and it actually improved my life. And especially when I took those skills that I learned from YouTube and I made money from it, that absolutely changed my life. You know, so if you're able to do the same thing, just imagine your one video could be playing thousands and then later on millions of times, and then it'll help people continuously. And so that's awesome. Before, you couldn't do that. Okay? And so, Rose says, I watch some of his videos and on. He like, Peter Guy, Hunter, I do, but more often rarely. He's a verified YouTuber and earns enough that he can survive for good. Vasil, 3 jobs, and he can even cook. And he is an ex-military. Yeah. Vasil, come on, ladies. Okay, so, all right, so it's been an hour. Once again, I want to thank all of you for watching. So I want to thank my people who are regulars and also new. Vasil, Shatter, Rose, Lance, George. Let me see if I missed anybody. I always want to thank y'all. I mean, for being on these shows. I always will say that your time is the most valuable thing that you have. And so for the simple fact that you're spending your time here, I really appreciate it. And of course, I definitely appreciate all of you people who are watching, who are spending your time to watch this. Okay, and so if you did have any thoughts on anything that I talked about today, and whether it's be the 2017 Video Game Awards, whether it would be Steam removing Bitcoin, the Linux Journal, or the changes to Patreon, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did enjoy these videos, be sure to subscribe. And if you did want to support my channel further, you can do that Patreon, or if you look down in my description, I also have a PayPal me link as well. But just want to thank all of you, and everybody saying thanks for the show. Thanks, Lance. Yeah, baby, always a pleasure here for. Thanks, George. Good show, Geek. I take care and have a good one. Happy weekend. Thank you. Bye. Keep the good mood. See you next time. Thanks for the show. Thank you all. We'll see you on another live episode.